Thank you very much. So, well, many thanks, no, to have the opportunities to present here this work, no, that we are trying, no, we already know, no, that HPV vaccination coverages globally, there are a few exceptions, but are kind of suboptimal. And our question, no, while producing all these WHO HPV vaccination coverage estimates for all these series, no, from 2010 for 2019, is that really if there was some kind of room for improvement, no, and I want to present here, no, this trend analysis we have been conducting this last month at ICO to look at that. So just to see where we are now, this is the current situation and the global status on the HPV vaccination introduction worldwide up to April 2021. WHO considers that 112 countries, this is almost 60% of countries, have introduced HPV vaccines. That means that they have introduced the vaccine into their national immunization program. And no, as we can see on the map, no, there are still huge differences at geographical level, and the Americas and Europe are still not the regions that have introduced the most. But well, this is introduction, and then there is what happens, no, once the country introduces. So these are the latest estimates we have for HPV vaccination coverage. This is estimates for 2019 that were released in 2020. And here we have, no, for all the countries that we could produce data, this is 99 different countries that had at least one of the two estimates for the final dose or for the first dose of vaccination. In blue, the final coverage estimate, and in yellow, the first one. And what we can see is that if we take the final dose, no, very few countries are at the top, no, have achieved coverages over the 90%. If we put together all these coverage rates, the performance in 2019 of all these programs, no, the average, no, performance coverage worldwide, and there were not striking differences between high income or low income countries. No, the average coverage performance was 68% for the first dose and 54% for the last dose. Okay, and while looking at this, we also looked back and tried to see if that was all, no, if this mean was always the same, no, if in previous years that was the same performance. And what we saw looking at the whole series is that what it's appeared to be is that the performance of the vaccination program during the first 2 years of introduction was a very strong predictor of the level of coverage in the subsequent years. So, no, the coverage with what you started from was more or less the coverage that you continued to be over time. So this is just no, this analysis is a very rough analysis, no, putting together all the data, but we could see, no, this is for HPV1, this is the first dose, no, that if we put together, not the average, this is the distribution, no, of the coverages, no, for the first 2 years of the program compared to the distribution, no, in the following years. There was a slightly increase, but that was not statistically significant, and we did not see any difference between high income and low and middle income countries again. So kind of seemed not that they always were, there were no difference between the first 2 years and the following years. But looking a little bit and stratifying a little bit more the analysis, no, there is some kind of slight increase between the first box and the second box. What we do so is that, yes, no, if we stratify not by income, but by the level, the magnitude, no, of the coverage achieved in the first 2 years, no, there seemed that if you started very low, the countries made an effort to increase, and there was a statistically significant increase over the following years. And that was not the case when the countries were starting over 50% coverage rates. Okay, so this is why we say, okay, let's look at this. And as you can see this in this box plot, even though the countries that started very low did improve over time, with some kind of exceptions, that they started from here and went up to almost 80% or 90%. Most of them increased, but they did not achieve higher levels than 50%, 60%. So it's an improvement, but it's not like you are jumping from very low coverage rates to 90, the milestone of 90% coverage. But with that, we wanted to look a little bit closer, country by country, to see if all countries behave the same, and this was a general pattern of all of them. So what we did is we conducted a trend analysis, and we tried to compare trends. But as a lot of countries did introduce very recently, we could only include in the analysis 57 different countries, because we needed that at least they had 4 valid data points. So the countries that just introduced in 2018 or 2019 couldn't enter in the analysis, and there have been a lot of introduction in these 2 last years. So in this analysis, we have kind of a underrepresentation of low and middle income countries, that have the ones that have been introducing lately. But again, we have 57 countries, 36 are high income countries, and 21 are from low and middle income countries. What we did is to conduct joint point regression analysis. We calculated annual different percent changes and the absolute differences in the coverages. We also did coefficient variation analysis to classify countries. At least what we did is all this kind of analysis, and we kind of ended up with a classification of countries according to the trends of the first dose, on increasing trends, decreasing trends, stable trends. Well, changing, that means that had different trends over time, that then sometimes they have an increasing trend, then they went down or up, whatever. We will see it in the following slides. Or we couldn't say anything about them because it was inconclusive. So very few countries we have seen achieve final coverages higher than 90%. Most of the countries show increasing or stable trends, and among the countries that started with the lower coverages, the increasing trends are more common. However, with very few exceptions, the pace of the increase of the coverages tends to be slow. So we think that based on all these, the HPV vaccination, all this evidence supports that HPV vaccination implementation should be well planned and aim for high coverage from the beginning. Because if countries behave like these ones, they usually maintain or even improve, even at slow pace over time. But this is the most common pattern. But they still are more or less with some kind of room of improvement from the baseline levels. And also to learn about the countries that have faced very vaccination crisis, that they have also shown that there is recovery capacity, and that it's possible to get back to baseline levels, but it takes some time as well. So many thanks.